Hello everyone, I am Smriti and I teach English for CUET. Today we are going to discuss Yes. So today we are going to discuss the previous year questions for English. These questions have appeared in CUET in the last year. And we are going to do some antonyms, some synonyms. I want you to do these antonyms and synonyms because one, they have appeared before, but also secondly, English vocabulary, especially antonyms and synonyms and vocabulary, are very important for CUET examination because many questions appear in CUET from this section only. And the more words you know, especially if you do the previous year questions, then you are at an advantage over others because then you've done that and you don't have to think on the spot, you don't have to choose between the options because you already know what you've done before, right? So let's get started. First, let's do the synonyms. So the first word is lethal. What do you think lethal means? The word lethal is usually used in terms of weapons. That was a lethal weapon or that was a lethal blow on his head. What can lethal mean? Can it mean unlawful or deadly or sluggish or smooth? So let's go by the options. What's unlawful? Unlawful cannot be lethal. A lethal weapon cannot be an unlawful weapon. The lethal blow, the lethal death blow cannot be unlawful blow which caused death. It's simply not a synonym and it's not a meaning for lethal. So unlawful gets crossed here. Let's go on to the second option, which is deadly. So can a weapon be deadly? Yes, because that weapon can be very dangerous for the other person. Lethal weapon, a lethal blow. Lethal blow is something, a blow which can cause death is a lethal blow. So deadly, yes. Deadly, we can go with deadly. Let's look at the third and the fourth options. Sluggish. What's sluggish? Sluggish is something which moves slowly. A snail is sluggish. When you're lazing around on the sofa on a holiday, your mother can go, "Oh, don't be sluggish today. Let's be active." So can a weapon be sluggish? No. Can a blow be sluggish? Not quite. So sluggish is again not an option. Yeah, so sluggish is again not an option. Let's go with smooth. Yes. So can a weapon be smooth? Not quite. It can be smooth, but then it's not lethal. Lethal is not smooth. Can a blow be smooth? Not quite. So again, smooth will not be an option. Why is it? Smooth is again not an option. Sluggish is not an option. So what's our answer? Deadly. A lethal means deadly. A lethal blow is a deadly blow. Let's move on to the next question. What is serene? What do you use serene for? What do you understand from the word serene? The word serene is usually used for, it was a serene place. I felt serene in the meditation chamber of the Lotus Temple. The scenery felt serene. I felt serene when I went for a walk in the hills. What is serene? Can serene be solemn? What is solemn? We need to know the meaning of the words first so that we know if they are antonyms or synonyms, right? So what's solemn? Solemn is something when you're very serious. So when you don't get good marks, you become solemn because then you're thoda sa sad, you're slightly crestfallen. That is solemn. You're slightly, introspecting what went wrong. That mood is solemn. You're not feeling too well. You're not very happy. So can serene be solemn? No, you don't feel sad when you go for a walk in the hills. You don't feel sad when you look at the waves. You feel serene, right? Serene is not solemn. What is meek? So first one is not an option, we know. Second, what is meek? Meek is timid. Meek is someone who does not get attention to themselves, who try to, fade in the surroundings, or someone who does not raise their voice enough. So who is a meek person? A meek person who is someone who does not have enough confidence. A meek person is someone who sit at the back of the class, who would not say much, who would not confront people, who would not fight with people, who would not raise their voice, who would not assert themselves. That person is a meek person. So can serene be meek? Not at all. Serene cannot be meek. Let's go for delicate. We all know what delicate is. Delicate is something which is easily, something which can easily be destroyed, something which can easily be hurt. That is a delicate thing. Can serene be delicate? Do you feel delicate when you go for a walk in the hills? Do you feel delicate when you look at the ocean? Do you feel delicate when you are up from a deep sleep? No, you don't feel delicate. You feel serene, you feel happy, you feel content and satisfied. So can delicate be an option? No, delicate cannot be an option. Last one, calm. Can serene be calm? Yes, serene can be calm. Do you feel calm when you are up from a deep sleep? Yes, you feel the sense of satisfaction and the sense of calm. Do you feel calm when you look at the ocean? Yes, you feel calm. So serene, synonym, calm. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Gruesome. Where have you heard the word gruesome? Those who read newspapers, they've heard the word gruesome used mostly for murders. Oh, it was a gruesome murder. Oh, it was a gruesome killing. So what is gruesome? Can gruesome be hateful? Can gruesome be painful, offensive, or frightful? Now here is a tricky part. If you don't know the exact meaning of gruesome, you can get confused between these four options, because yes, murder can be hateful. Yes, murder can be painful and offensive as well, or frightful as well. So let's go part by part. 1. Hateful. It was a gruesome murder. Now, a gruesome murder is not quite a hateful murder, right? The murder can be caused because of hate, but then when the murder has already happened, you cannot say, oh, that murder was a hateful murder, right? So hateful is not an option. Painful? Yes, to some extent. Painful can be gruesome, but then it's not quite gruesome. It has to be something more than being painful. A gruesome murder is not a painful murder, although it caused much pain to the person who is murdered, but then it's not just painful, it's something more than painful. So painful is again not quite an option. Okay, let's go for offensive. So a gruesome murder, not quite an offensive murder, because offensive is not exactly gruesome. Offensive and gruesome are two different things. So no, it cannot be offensive. Frightful? Yes, of course. So a gruesome murder is a frightful murder, because when you look at how the person has been murdered, it causes fright in the persons who are looking. It's very unsettling for the persons who are looking, and it's frightful. So gruesome's synonym can be frightful. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Connoisseur. And I might not be very perfect at the pronunciation of this word, but let's look at the meanings of the word, right? So this is a slightly difficult question, but let's go still and look at the meanings of the words, and let's try to find out what the answer can be. So the option A is ignoramus. What's ignoramus? Ignoramus is something which is made from ignorance plus animus. So it's made from two words. Ignorance plus animus. Okay, so this is not working. Anyways, apart from the handwriting, because the stylus is not quite working, but ignoramus means ignorant animal. So what is ignorant? Ignorant is someone who is not quite privy to the facts around us, someone who does not know what's quite going on. That person is ignorant. Who is an animus? An animus is anyone who has a body. So animus can be someone who has a body. So it can be a human being. It's not quite an animal. Animal is a different thing. Animus is something which has a body. So what's ignoramus? Ignoramus is someone who is ignorant, someone who doesn't know what's going on around them, someone who doesn't know about something is ignore. Can connoisseur be ignoramus? No, connoisseur is something else. Let's look at what it is. Interpreter. So ignoramus gets cancelled. Let's go for the second option, which is interpreter. What's an interpreter? Interpreter is someone who interprets things. To interpret is to maybe convert it into a different language, maybe to interpret some sign language and to interpret the meaning of the words of a sign language. But can connoisseur be an interpreter? No. The interpreter is again not an option. Ignoramus is not an option. Let's go for the third part, which is a delinquent. Who is a delinquent? Delinquent is someone who does petty unlawful things. So when someone thieves, he is a delinquent. A delinquent employee is someone who does little unlawful things in the office. Someone who has gone against the law is delinquent. Can connoisseur be a delinquent? No. Which brings us to the last word, which is dilettante. What's a dilettante? A dilettante is someone who engages in art forms, someone who is a specialist in their art form. So can dilettante be connoisseur? Of course dilettante can be connoisseur. And I'll explain why. You know, connoisseur, the word connoisseur is used for someone who is exceptionally good in a particular form of art that they choose to, pursue. Dilettante is someone who is also good at some art and who develops a taste for that art, and so both of them together work, and hence dilettante is a synonym for connoisseur. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. What's exorbitant? So where have we heard the word exorbitant? So we've generally heard the word exorbitant in sentences such as, oh, the prices were exorbitant, or they charged us an exorbitant price for that thing, and the rates in the market for this thing was exorbitant. They charged exorbitant. What can be exorbitant? Can exorbitant be odd? Did they charge us an odd price? Not quite, right? It's not sitting well with exorbitant. So odd will not be an option. Can it be excessive? They charged us as an exorbitant price? Yes, it can be excessive. So let's go with excessive for now, and let's look at the other two options. Can it be ridiculous? It can be ridiculous, but then exorbitant is a more niche term. It's used for a more money matters. Exorbitant pricing, exorbitant prices, right? So can it be ridiculous? It could have been ridiculous if excessive was not an option, but since excessive is an option, ridiculous cannot be a synonym. Can it be threatening? No. Can prices ever be threatening? No, right? Prices do not threaten. Prices just are excessive or are not quite to the mark or are more than they should be. Threatening is not a word for prices. So it's again not threatening. So what can exorbitant be? Exorbitant can be excessive. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. Affluent. Where is the word affluent used? Oh, they come from an affluent family. Oh, she came from an affluent family. Right? So in movies, we generally see that the guy is from a poor family, but the girl is from an affluent family. What's affluent? Can affluent be poor? No. The affluent is they come from an affluent family. They come from a rich family, right? So poor cannot be an option. Talkative family? No, not quite. Affluent family is not talkative family. Close family? No. Affluent is again not close. So what can affluent be? Affluent can be rich or prosperous. So they come from an affluent family, which means they come from a prosperous family. They come from a successful and rich family. Okay? Let's move on to the next slide. Distinguish. Please distinguish between the facts. You get in your exam sheets. Distinguish between these two options. What can be distinguished? Can distinguish be darken? Please darken between these two options? Not quite. So distinguish cannot be darken. To abolish, please abolish these two options? Again, not quite. Distinguish cannot be abolished. Can distinguish be confused? Please confuse us. So will the exam setters say, oh, please confuse us between these two options? Again, not quite. So distinguish cannot be confused. What can distinguish be? Differentiate, right? So it says, oh, distinguish between these two options. They mean, please differentiate between these two options, and then you make a table and you differentiate, okay? So distinguish is to differentiate between two options. Bash. What can bash be? What is it sounding like? It's sounding like someone's hitting someone very loud. Okay, so they bashed the teacher. They bashed the student. They bashed that particular person. So what can bash be? Can bash be neglect? They bashed that particular student means they neglected that particular student? Not quite. They embraced that student? Not quite. They embraced that student? Not quite again. They bashed a student means it doesn't mean they embraced that student. Okay, so embrace is again not an option. So embrace is again not an option. Let's go for ignore. They bashed that student. Did they mean they ignored that student? Not quite. And then let's go for strike. What's to strike? To strike is to hit hard, right? There are two meanings to strikes. One is the dharna which happens on the road. That's not the strike we're talking about. We're talking about they struck him hard. They hit him hard, right? So can bash be to strike? Yes, definitely it can be. So here, strike will be an option, okay? Anyways, let's go to the next slide. Ephemeral. What's ephemeral? Can ephemeral be unreal? Can it be mythical? Can it be artificial? Or can it be short-lived? So I'll tell you, ephemeral is something which lasts for a very short period of time. That was an ephemeral thing. Ephemeral thing means it lasts for a short period of time. A breaking star, a shooting star is an ephemeral sighting, which means it's short-lived. It doesn't have a very long time span. So since short-lived is a word, we'll go for short-lived. It cannot be unreal, it cannot be mythical, it cannot be artificial. It'll only be short-lived. Okay, so short-lived will be an option. Let's go for the next slide. Doleful. What's doleful? So a doleful, so when their pet dog died, the atmosphere in the house was doleful. What's a doleful atmosphere? A doleful atmosphere is a very mournful, is a very sad atmosphere because something bad has happened. Right? Doleful will not be used when you are disappointed. Doleful will not be used when you are crestfallen. Those are different emotions. But doleful will be used when you are very sad about a loss. When the atmosphere is in general very sad, then it's a doleful atmosphere. So can it be colorful? Of course it cannot be colorful. Can it be jovial? No, it cannot be jovial. Jovial is, what's the meaning of jovial? Jovial is something which is happy. A jovial atmosphere is a happy atmosphere. Okay, so can it be jovial? It cannot be jovial. Can it be bright? No. Can it be mournful? Yes, it can be mournful. Because as we discussed, doleful is a mournful atmosphere. So jovial is a very happy place. Jovial is when people are celebrating, when people are partying. That's a jovial atmosphere. So doleful will not go with jovial. Doleful will go with mournful. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. Here we got antonyms. What are antonyms? Antonyms are words that are different in meaning to the word that is given. Be very careful what you are answering. Please do not answer, please do not, in your frenzy to answer questions, go on to answer synonyms in place of antonyms. That would be a very unfortunate mistake. Okay, let's go for antonyms. What's lenient? So when you give a tough exam, you ask teachers to be lenient with the marking. What's lenient? Lenient is going easy on someone. Please be lenient on me. Please be easy on me. Please, forgive some of my mistakes. So can lenient be obstinate? Obstinate is someone who is very hell-bent on something. Lenient cannot be obstinate. Can lenient be annoyed? Please ma'am, please be annoyed when you mark my answer sheet because the exam was very tough. Of course you won't want that. So lenient is again not annoyed. Can lenient be rude? Please mark rudely. No, please do not mark rudely. So lenient cannot be rude. Can lenient be harsh? Can the antonym of lenient be harsh? So easy, please mark lenient, is please mark easily. Opposite will be harsh. Please don't mark harshly. Okay. So lenient's antonym will be harsh. Can lenient's antonym be annoyed? No, the teacher is not happy and the antonym can then be annoyed. Right? Rude and obstinate will not be antonyms. Let's move on to the next slide. Accord. What's an accord? An accord is a friendship sort of a thing. An accord is an agreement where two parties agree to something. Right? So, can the antonym of accord be a solution? No, it's already a solution. The meaning can be a solution, but not the antonym. Can it be an act? No. Can it be a concord? No. Concord is again a synonym, not an antonym. Be very careful when you're marking antonyms. Can accord be dissent? Yes. So, when you agree on something, you accord on it. But when you disagree, when there's disagreement between people, then it's dissent. So, can the antonym of accord be dissent? Of course it can be dissent. Okay, so the antonym. So we'll go with the dissent option. Let's move on to the next slide. Who is a miserly person? A miserly person is someone who is very unkeen on giving, on lending out money or for paying for anyone. Who's, in Hindi we call it kanjoos. Someone who's kanjoos is miserly. So can the antonym of miserly, the antonym of kanjoos be biased? No. Right? It cannot be biased. Can it be parsimonious? What's the meaning of parsimonious? The meaning of parsimonious is again miserly. Parsimonious is someone who does not want to give their money, who would save their money at any cost. Right? So parsimonious is again not an option for miserly. Can it be misanthropic? Philanthropic is someone who gives out their money for charity. Misanthropic is someone who does not give out their money for charity, who want to keep their money with themselves. So opposite of miserly would not again be misanthropic. Will it be generous? Yes. So who is a generous person? A generous person is someone who wants to help others, who wants to lend his money to others. And so yes, it would be general. It would be a generous person. Let's move on to the last word that we have for today, and it's lend. It's very similar to what we said earlier, right? So what is to lend? Lend is to give money to someone on a promise of getting it back. So, or give something to someone. Oh, I'm lending you my pen for this period because you don't have a pen, but that implies that I want the pen back. And the other person is borrowing my pen for this particular lecture. So, will the opposite of lend be hire? No. The opposite of hire is fire, right? So, you hire someone, you fire someone. So, lend will not figure in hire. Will it be cheat? It cannot be cheat. So, opposite of lend cannot be cheat because lend is to give something. Cheat is a whole different word. Okay, so it will not be cheat. Can it be pawn? No, it cannot be pawn. But can it be to borrow? Yes, you lend and the other person borrows. So the opposite of lend is to borrow. So you lend something is you give something, you borrow something is you take something. So the opposite of lend is to borrow. And that marks the end of today's YouTube video on synonyms and antonyms which have appeared in CUET before. I hope you enjoyed this session.